Hola chicos, welcome to Spanish with Seba. Today we're going to discuss the reflexive verbs in Spanish. We're going to see how they're similar or different from the reflexive verbs in English, and we're going to see how to use them. So first of all, let's start with the name. Why there are certain verbs that are called reflexive verbs. I think that it means that reflexive verbs are called that way because they reflect on the subject. For example, the subject is a person does something. Person, I don't know, gets up. Whom does he get up? He gets up himself. That's why it's reflexive verb. Or you would say he eats. He eats cheese. That is not reflexive because he is not cheese. It's not himself. So it is not the reflexive verb. A person is watching television. He's watching the television. He is not the television, so it's not reflexive verb. So it's not himself, right? So mirar in Spanish would be the to watch or to see. So levantar would be to lift, let's say. So he is trying to lift a television, let's say. All right, that's not reflexive because the subject and the object, television, is not the same. But let's pretend that it's not a television anymore. It's not la tele. What would it be? It would be the mirror, el espejo. Let's see. There is a mirror in here. And he looks at himself in a mirror. And who is looking at the mirror? Well, that is him. Whom does he see? Himself. Himself, that means it is a reflexive verb. Is it correct? So that's the definition of the reflexive verb. So when he sees himself. So the most important thing, remember about the reflexive verbs, it is that they deal with the concept of self. He sees himself. Who sees? He. Whom does he see? Self. So he sees himself, reflexive verb. So mirar would be to look or to watch. Levantar would be to lift or to get up. If you say él levanta la tele, he lifts the television. That is not reflexive. He's not the television. Él se levanta. That would be he gets himself up. Yeah? Okay. Let's see the details. So you already know the subject pronouns. Yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, nosotras, vosotros, vosotras in Spain, ustedes, ellos, ellas. So now, in order to use the reflexive verbs, we need to learn the reflexive pronouns, and they will be me, which means myself, tú, which means yourself, él, ella, usted will use se, which means himself, herself, or yourself if you're speaking formally to somebody. It will be nos for nosotros, nosotras, which means ourselves. Vosotros, used only in Spain, will use os, so it will be yourselves. And then finally, ustedes and ellos, ellas will use se, which means themselves. And yourselves in Latin America. All right, so let's see. You already know that you need to memorize them in order to use them. So let's take a look. Let's review again how do we deal with normal non-reflexive verbs before we proceed. You have the verb hablar. How do you do it? Easy. You just add the endings to the root of the verb. What is the root? Hablo, because R is the ending. So you have hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, habláis, hablan. This is the normal conjugation for regular verbs ending in AR. Yeah? Okay, let's see normal conjugation, AR, that is levantar, which means to lift or to get up. Again, we have the root, levant, we write it 6 times, and then we add the fixed endings, and they are normal, and there is nothing strange about it. Levanto, levantas, levanta, levantamos, levantáis, in Spain only, levantan. You have it. Excellent. And now let's take a look how to use this verb reflexively. Levantarse, which means to get oneself up, to lift oneself up or to get oneself up. Me levanto. All right. So first of all, you do the normal conjugation, just like you did before, which will be levanto, levantas, levanta, levantamos, levantáis, only in Spain, levantan. But that se, that is attached to the infinitive of the verb, you need to do something with it. What do you need to do with it? You need to change it accordingly to the subject. This is levanto, it means I get up. Remember, if it's reflexive, you have only one choice here. Me. Why is it me? Because it is myself. If it is reflexive, it will be I get myself up, or I get up in English. Then te, and you have this little table that you already memorized, will be te levantas, you get yourself up. Se levanta, he, she, you sir, you madam, get up. Nos levantamos, we get ourselves up. Os levantáis, only in Spain, will be you guys get up. Se levantan will be you get up in Latin America, or they get up. Literally, it is they get themselves up. Remember, in order to be reflexive, the object and the subject have to coincide. So it has to be self. Usually, you use reflexive verbs in Spanish as in English when you do things to yourself. It's a little bit more evident in Spanish. When you get yourself up, you wash yourself, you brush your teeth, you wash your hands, you brush your hair, and so forth. You do things to self. And remember, the most important about the reflexive verbs is that idea of the self. Huh? All right, let's take a look here. You see here the reflexive pronouns all together. Me, myself, te, yourself, se, himself, herself, yourself, or itself, since in Spanish it also belongs to that group. Nos, ourselves, os, yourself, informal plural, se, themselves, or yourself for plural. And the object, you have only one choice, since me and I have to be there in order to be reflexive. And so for all of them, you will have only one choice between the subject and the reflexive pronoun. The only thing is, you remember that in Spanish, the subject pronoun is optional, unlike in English. So you could say, me levanto, which means I get up. Or you could say, yo me levanto, which means exactly the same thing. But in Spanish, the subject pronoun is optional because Spanish is the language of freedom. Excellent. Let's take a look. Here you have some common reflexive verbs. You have here acordarse de, and you have ue in here because it will be the stem changer, so they will all conjugate with that. Acostarse, and again it's a stem changer. Afeitarse, to shave oneself. Bañarse, to take a bath. To brush could be hair or the teeth. Despedirse, again it has a change in the root. Pay attention to the stem changers. Despertarse, same business, to wake up. Dormirse, note it's to go to sleep or to fall asleep, and it will have the stem changer. And ducharse, to shower, to take a shower. All right, so what have we learned here? That the reflexive verbs exist both in English and in Spanish. They do not always coincide. What is reflexive in Spanish does not have to be in English and the other way around. Because in English, acordarse, for example, is not reflexive to remember, but in Spanish it is. You just need to memorize those occasional differences. You also need to make sure that you're absolutely comfortable with the reflexive pronouns me, te, se, nos, os, se. These ones have to be memorized. And finally, you remember that the conjugation is the same. It does not change. The only difference is that you have to deal with the se. So it's an extra particle or reflexive pronoun that you need to change it according to the subject. And I think that's it. Pretty straightforward. Good luck. If you need anything else, let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned. I'll record a new practice on reflexive verbs very soon. Ciao, pescao.